Hi everyone. So I'm back again for another video earlier than I expected to be, but I felt a push to make another one because we are getting hit with another influx of intense energies. And this time it really, I think, blindsided a lot of us. So things have been intense for a while. They really started to pick up and amplify when we had that solar eclipse in August, and it got heavy for a while. Like we were really sorting through some things and purging some stuff, and it was intense. And then things seemed like they were starting to calm down and mellow out and kind of even out. And we started feeling more uplifted, more empowered, more optimistic about the future, and that was all great. And then when this new moon in Virgo on the 20th hit us, then right around that time, pretty much the day of or the next day for a lot of us, we got hit with another influx of these crazy roller coaster energies, like having sand under our feet. Like all of a sudden, like we're walking on solid ground and then all of a sudden there's just sand under our feet and we're kind of having a hard time balancing. And we're confused because it's like, where did all this sand come from? I was on solid ground and now I'm not. What's the deal with this? How did I get here? What's going on? Why can't I figure this out? Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? What is going on? So I got a pretty big wave of that myself, and the message that I got from my team, and not just for me, for the collective in general, which is part of why I'm making this video, because I don't actually get a ton of channeled messages for the collective, generally speaking, but this one was really important, and my team wanted me to share it. So what's going on with us right now is we just went through a huge integration process. It's been ongoing for a while, for a long while for some of us, but it's really been ramping up with momentum this year, and especially since I would say beginning of July or so. And this process that we've been going through, so right before we had the solar eclipse, the video that I made talked a lot about like sorting through our fears and kind of detaching ourselves from those things and leaving behind those things that were no longer serving us. So we did a lot of that. We did that work. We did some purging. We cut some ties with people. Like we really started making some of those shifts and changes. And then it was kind of like being just uncertain. We were in a lot of uncertain ground at that point. We walked into that void, which is great because facing that uncertainty is terrifying sometimes, but we did it. We walked into that void not knowing what we were walking into. And then we started facing up to our shadow sides, and we started seeing aspects of ourselves and having to experience these parts of ourselves that we didn't really want to deal with. And so that happened, and we started kind of coming through that and getting some clarity, and all of that was good. But what was happening throughout that entire process is that we were getting to a point where we could fully integrate ourselves. Like we were getting rid of just like the excess, the stuff that we really didn't need anymore. We were really seeing ourselves and our life situations with clarity. And a lot of us were also getting a lot of past life memories. I got a huge influx of past life memories, which just totally threw me off center because I've gotten past life memories before, but nothing like that. And I was kind of wondering why, but it was awesome to get those things, and it helped me to start seeing some things like where patterns came from and why I do some of the things that I do and why some of my interests are the way that they are. So we started getting all of these clues as we did the work, and we started clearing things out, and we walked into that void. We started facing ourselves, and we started being able to see all of these different aspects of ourselves. And what we essentially got when we went through that new moon in Virgo, and as we're going through these energies that we're in right now, is that it was an integration process. So for a lot of us, we've been on this path for a long time. Now, whether you want to call it your spiritual path for a long time or just a healing path, because for me, I've been on a healing journey for almost 15 years. But it's only taken like a spiritual turn over the last couple of years, really. So a lot of us have been doing some intense healing work because of things that happened in our childhood or traumas that we've experienced, things like that. So a lot of us have been on this path for a long time. We've been acquiring tools. We've been learning skills. We've been learning more about ourselves. We've been observing things. We've been experiencing things. We've been acquiring all of this experience, all of this wisdom, all of these tools, but we haven't really known like how to tie it all together or what we were really supposed to do with it as a whole. Like, it was like, I know I can use this tool for this specific thing, but how does that relate into everything else? So what this new moon in Virgo did for those of us who have been working for a long time or been working really intensely, even if it hasn't been for a long time, because some people, they can heal a lot faster because they can power through it. But what we got with this new moon in Virgo is that we got an integration process. And by integration, I mean integrating our past life selves, integrating our shadow selves, integrating our inner child, integrating everything into ourselves to become a whole being. And it was like, for me, because I got guided to do a shamanic journey on the night of the new moon, and it ended up being ritualistic in the sense that I literally came face to face in this shamanic journey with all of the different aspects of myself. And I've been trying to merge with all these aspects of myself, trying to step into wholeness with myself, but I'd never been able to get there. Like, there was always something blocking me. And when I went into this ritual and I was told that I was going to be merging with all these aspects of myself finally, and I thought, okay, this is going to be work, like what goes into this, because I've been trying to do this for a long time and it hasn't worked. And it was literally like that, just so quick. And so when I asked my team about that, I'm like, well, I've been working for all these years to make this happen and it never worked before. And so how could it be so easy now? And they said it's because I've been doing my groundwork for years. And this applies to a lot of us. We've been doing the groundwork for years. We've been acquiring those tools. We've been doing the work to figure out how to heal from these things, to figure out how to step back into wholeness, to figure out how to be fully empowered within ourselves. And so for the longest time, we couldn't get all the pieces to click together. So when we got that new moon in Virgo, what happened was everything clicked together pretty much in an instant for a lot of us. But as awesome as that is, and it is awesome, it brings a lot of great things because we really stepped into wholeness now in a way that we hadn't been able to before. So that's wonderful. But what's come along with that is that essentially our energy fields have had to expand, because as we've integrated all those fragments of ourselves and brought everything back to center, reintegrated everything into ourself, our energy field has naturally expanded. And we are literally housing more power, more charge, more energy within our bodies, within our consciousness. And so it was a really quick flip of the switch to integrate everything back in. But now we're having to stabilize in that new energy. So when we brought all of those things back in, so let's think about it in terms of like past lives or traumatic events or things along those lines. So we leave little fragments of ourselves along the way. And a lot of times the fragments that we leave along the way are things that we maybe didn't want. And so we just kind of left them imprinted somewhere. We left little bits of ourselves with people or in timelines or things like that. But when we reintegrated everything, we brought all of those fragments back. And that's actually, as wonderful as it is, it's actually a really overwhelming process to stabilize because, one, we're housing more energy, more power than we were before. Our energy fields have expanded. So we're getting used to just that, just housing more energy than we have in the past. But what we're also starting to experience is we're experiencing everything to a greater degree than we used to. So for me, like the day after I had that shamanic journey, it was like acclimating myself to like just these interesting sensations and feelings, and it was really pleasant and wonderful. And I was like, this is great. And then the next day I got hit with this huge wave of just undirected, unprovoked anger. And I have never really considered anger to be part of my emotional repertoire. And in fact, most of the people who know me, they would say that when I get angry, it's really just more like cute than anything, or obnoxious. But it's not terrifying, it's not intimidating, it's not anything like that. And I think for me, it's because I've never been able to really experience anger fully. And after I went through that integration process, oh my God, it was like I was experiencing anger for the first time. And so when we're experiencing all of these really high highs and low lows right now, for a lot of us, we have leveled up. So we've reintegrated everything into ourselves. Our energy fields have expanded. We're housing more power. We're more whole within ourselves. We are whole within ourselves, which is wonderful for us going forward, because now we can really step up to the plate and start manifesting what we want for our life. We can start moving forward towards our goals, our mission, our purpose, whatever you want to call it. We can do that now from a fully empowered state, because we have integrated all those aspects of ourselves. We're more aware, we're more conscious now than we were before. We are whole. But with that, we're having to integrate, not integrate, we have integrated, we're having to stabilize within that balance. We're having to find a new equilibrium with all of this power, all of these sensations, all of these emotions that we're feeling to a greater degree than we ever have before. And so I know a lot of people that I've known, and myself included, man, like, we'll be riding so high, we'll be doing great, we'll be happy, we'll be super optimistic, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's like we are pissed. Like, why am I so pissed off? I don't get it. And it's intense, and it's like we just want to like call it quits on everything. Just screw this, I am done, I just want to go back to being normal. Well, we can't. It's too late for that, and we don't really want that. What we're feeling in those moments is we are just feeling overwhelmed. The same thing applies to like waves of depression. We're getting these waves of deep sadness and grief, and it's making us just want to call it quits on everything. But it's because we've reintegrated all of those things. We're no longer familiar with what it feels like to be whole, to be centered, to be integrated. We don't remember what that feels like. It's been so long since we've experienced that. So that's what we're going through right now, and that is going on with the collective. And if you are not feeling it yet, you will feel it soon. And if you've just been like completely confused about what's going on with you, know that it's because you've leveled up. You did the work for a long time, and you've moved up. So even if it feels in some ways like you're backsliding, I'm willing to bet that for most of you, even in those moments when you feel like you're backsliding, it doesn't feel the same way that it used to. So when we felt hopeless or doubtful or sad or any of those things before in the past, it was like consuming. When we would get triggered, it would be really intense, and we would stay stuck in that, and we would fixate on it, and we couldn't let it go. But now it's different. So we get triggered now, and it's like, yeah, I don't like that feeling. And like we try to follow the same patterns that we always used to follow, because we're so used to, okay, this is something that triggers me, this conversation with this person that I've had these issues with for so long, this should throw me into just all of this turmoil. So we kind of try to do that, not consciously. We're not wanting to make ourselves miserable, but we're so used to that being the process that we start to just go into it by habit. But then we realize, wait, this isn't working anymore. I can't maintain that energy. Like, this just isn't affecting me the way that it used to. This is not as devastating or as consuming or as overwhelming as it used to be. Oh, well, that's different. Like, now what? This is just really unfamiliar. So that's something that we're going through right now too. But that's a good sign. So even if you feel like you're backsliding a little bit, really check in with yourself and see, are you actually backsliding, or are you just falling into habits a little bit? Look at how you're actually feeling. Does it feel like it's completely consuming? Does it feel like that knot in your stomach? Or does it feel like it's more superficial? The way I explained it to one of my friends this morning I woke up feeling really depressed. And in the past, when I felt depressed, especially being bipolar, it's felt so intense, and it's felt like this heavy lead ball sitting in the pit of my stomach and in my heart. It's just like this core of hopelessness and who cares? Like, what's the point? And this time, though I had some of those feelings, instead of it feeling like it was inside me, instead of it feeling like there was a lead ball inside my heart, it felt more like there was a lead ball sitting on top of my heart. So it felt more superficial. So if you feel like you're backsliding, really check in. You probably will discover that you're not actually slipping the way that you think you are. You're just so used to those habits, so used to those patterns, that you just find yourself just going to them, reverting back to them because it's what you know. But we're getting an opportunity now to really change the way we perceive things, to really change the way that we interact with our environment, with ourselves, the way that we understand things, the way that we perceive things, the way we interact with people. Everything has changed now. So as awesome as it is, we did all that groundwork for years, and we finally got everything to click, and it's amazing and wonderful, and it has such awesome implications, and we can really start moving forward now, but we have to stabilize first. And that's going to be a bit of a process for us, because we're having to like break old habits. We're having to get used to a new way of being. So another pattern that I've noticed with people that goes along with that is that we're having a harder time. Those of us who are connected to our spiritual guidance teams and like really connected, in constant contact, we feel really like we've got a solid bond there, an open line of communication. A lot of us have felt distanced from our team, like we can't fully connect, and it's been a little concerning, because it's like, why can't I connect? What happened? Part of it is that our teams are kind of taking a step back. They're still there. We can still make contact with them, but they're taking a step back for a couple of reasons. One is because we're needing to understand now that we are whole and we are more empowered, and we have more ability to manifest what we want in our lives. We don't need as much help. You know, it's taking off those training wheels. Our teams are really taking off the training wheels and giving us a chance to explore those things on our own. So the other reason that they've been taking a step back is because they want to decrease confusion. Because as we integrated all those aspects of ourselves, we also integrated our higher self. And in doing that, now when we seek guidance from our higher selves, because a lot of us do communicate with our higher self, but it's within us now. So we ask these questions, and the answers are coming from within. And our teams are kind of distancing themselves just a little bit. They're still watching. They're still there. We can still connect to them. They still show up if we really need them. But they're distancing themselves a little bit because they want us to be able to realize that those answers are now coming from within, that we have all the answers that we need already within us. They are still there to support us. They've still got our back. But we have the answers that we need within us. We have the power to manifest what it is that we're wanting in our lives. We have the ability to move forward now. And our teams want us to be aware of that. They don't want us to be reliant on them, and they also don't want us to get confused. So when those messages come up for us, when we've asked a question, our teams are taking a step back because they want us to be able to feel, to recognize that the answers that we're getting, for the most part now, are coming from within. Now, one of the other things that's changing with our spiritual guidance teams is that we are having to change the way that we communicate with them. So I've always been a very linguistically oriented person. I'm very word oriented, very word based. And all of my communication with my team has always been like dialogue conversations. And that's shifted now. And I couldn't figure out why it had shifted, and I was getting really frustrated. So I reached out, and I'm like, why are we not communicating like we normally do? Why does it feel like this connection's just like it's static? What is with that? And essentially, because we've integrated all those aspects of ourselves and our energy fields have expanded and we've really been stepping into ourselves more, the way that we experience things has changed. There's no going back on that. So we still will be able to have some conversations with our team. That's not going to go away. They'll still send us messages through numbers. The number synchronicities are off the charts right now, right? But what we're getting used to is not doing everything so much from here. We're really moving into our heart space. So when I asked my team, why am I not able to have these conversations with you anymore like I used to? And they said, it's because we're needing to feel into things now. Do it by feel. That's the phrase they keep giving me. Do it by feel. Don't do it by words. Don't use your brain so much. Use your heart. Do it by feel. Pay attention to the things that you're observing, to your senses. Be really aware of those things. How do you feel? What emotions come up when you ask a question? What do you see in your environment? What do you hear? Are you getting like loud pitch frequencies in your ear, like that ringing in your ears? Are you seeing colors more vibrantly? Things like that. Be more aware in those ways, because we're reaching a point where logic just doesn't really apply anymore. And I know that sounds crazy, and it's an adjustment for me too, because I know it seems like a contradiction, but I am actually a very logic-oriented person. I'm very intellectual. I'm very cerebral. I'm very abstract. It's really different for me too to have to get used to this, but it's because we've leveled up. It's because we've integrated. It's because we're more whole now. We're moving into a higher state of consciousness. And with that higher state of consciousness, we're not relying solely on our intellect anymore. We're starting to merge and blend our ability to feel into things and our ability to think into things. And so that's part of where the confusion is coming in right now too. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So our communication with our teams is changing a bit because they're kind of prepping us to be more independent. They're taking off the training wheels. We're also learning how to communicate in different ways, how to experience in different ways. Do it by feel, okay? We're starting to feel emotions more intensely than we have in the past. We're getting waves of emotions that seem like they're coming out of nowhere, and it's because we've integrated. So we're cycling through waves because all these fragments of ourselves have returned. So we're cycling through these waves of emotions. So that's another thing that's going on. Yeah, our energy field has expanded. We're housing more power, more energy, more charge than we used to. That's just taking a while to get to acclimate to adapt to, but we're totally going to get there. And yeah, so let's get into the reading that I did. And we just start with oracle cards today. I didn't even want to do the tarot cards because I want this to be more open to interpretation, and tarot cards can almost be too specific. So this is a period of time for us where we are really stepping into our power in ways that we never have before. And it is a very uncertain, unsteady ground, but this is something that we need to do. So we need to leave things a little bit more open, a little bit more flowing, because we want to allow ourselves to be led by our teams, and especially be led by ourselves, by our fully integrated selves. I don't even want to say higher self anymore, because for the most part, we are integrated now. So I want to leave things more open. So we're not going to do the tarot cards. We're going to stick to the oracle cards, okay? So we will start with Kuan Yin. So the first card that we pulled for Kuan Yin was the Veil of Shadows, and I pulled this card after I asked the question, what's the theme for us right now? And the Veil of Shadows it's walking into that uncertainty within. And that is definitely where we're at right now. It's very uncertain in here. I'm very unfamiliar with what's going on within me right now, and a lot of us are. So it's stepping into that darkness within us, not in the sense that we were before when we were stepping into our shadows. This is more like fully stepping into ourselves and seeing ourselves clearly, seeing beyond the shadows. So we're not facing our shadow selves anymore. We're seeing beyond the shadows. We're bringing everything to the light now, because now that we've integrated, now that we've brought all these fragments back into wholeness, now we kind of like have to sort through things and look at things and see things from a new perspective. So all of those things are coming to light now, and we're recognizing that we have abilities and powers and gifts that maybe we didn't recognize before. And a lot of times those things in the past showed up for us as things that we admired about other people. And so the idea is that the things that we admire in other people are actually qualities that we possess within ourselves that we're not acknowledging, we're not seeing them, we're not owning them. An example is that when I got ready to go into that shamanic journey, my team, they were telling me that as I've been getting all of these past life memories, I've been like looking up to some of my past life selves, the ones that I saw as being more advanced, more evolved, be like they had it together more than I think I do in this lifetime. And so I was looking up to them, and my team was telling me, they're like, the work that you've been doing, it's great, but you've been borrowing from their power. You've been looking up to them as though they're separate from you, but you're not understanding that they are you. So that's part of what we're going through right now. So think about the things that you've admired in other people, or if you've had past life memories, things that you really clung to about those past life versions of yourself as being really positive. Think about those things. Think about what you've admired in other people, because those are the qualities that you possess. They're part of your soul essence that you just haven't acknowledged yet. So my favorite line from the description for that card is, you are the thing that you believe you are not. That's one of the things that we're really focusing in on right now. We're starting to see that we are everything that we've admired in other people. We've admired those things so much because we on some level knew that they were within us too. It was like home. That's why we looked up to it. That's why we had such a fondness for it. That's why we reached for it, because it felt like home, because we recognized it as part of our own energy signature, but we weren't consciously aware of it. Now we're becoming consciously aware of it. So the next card that I pulled was, okay, so what do we need to be aware of in this process? And I pulled the Ivory Swan Goddess. And this card it's such a beautiful card. Like visually, it's a beautiful card, but the meaning is really beautiful too, because it's about letting go of any shame or guilt or any of those nasty things that we felt towards ourselves. Just letting that go. Like, what's in the past is in the past. We're integrated now. Everything that we've gone through was to get us to this point. So any guilt or shame or anything like that you've been feeling, any insecurity, any areas where you feel like you're not worthy, or any areas where you feel like you're unlovable, let that go. Let go of that perception, because everything was meant to get you to this spot. And you're really stepping into who you are now. And you're stepping into your ability to move forward in your life in the ways that you want to manifest the future that you want for yourself, and to explore things in new ways, to discover things in new ways, to really live the way that you always wanted to live, the way that you were intended to live, the way that the blueprint that you created as your higher self in conjunction with your team or whatever the case may be. But there was a blueprint for what you were aiming for in your lives, in all of your lifetimes, what you were really aiming for. And we're starting to recognize that now. We're starting to step into that now. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to have things going forward. I want to keep emphasizing that, because this is not a destination that we reach and everything is glorious and wonderful and we never have problems again. But this is a significant step forward for us in our evolution. And in order for us to make that step forward, we have to let go of any unforgiveness that we've been harboring toward ourselves, any shame that we've been feeling, any areas where we feel like we're unworthy. I'm going to cuss a little bit because I feel like it's important. It's bullshit. Stop thinking of yourself as being unworthy or unlovable. You don't have anything to be ashamed of. You don't have anything to feel guilty or horrible about. If there's something that you feel you need to resolve, then resolve it. But it's not because you are unworthy or that you're broken or anything along those lines. It's not. That mentality needs to go, because we have the ability to move forward now. So let's not stop ourselves and block ourselves by thinking that we don't deserve to move forward. Like I said, if there's something that you need to resolve with another person or within yourself, I get that. Do what you need to do on that front. Whatever it is that you need to do to be able to let go of that guilt or shame or anything like that, any of those heavier energies that make us not like ourselves. That stuff needs to go so we can really move forward. You deserve to move forward. It's time. Everything that you experienced was to bring you to this point, and everything that you experienced was also to every interaction we have with another human being benefits them as much as it benefits us, even if we are the bad guy sometimes. That happens, but it still benefits them. That's not to say that we can't feel remorse or that we can't acknowledge our wrongdoing, because we should, but we also don't have to hold on to that guilt forever. Okay? Everything that we experience, every experience that we are catalyst for in other people is for a reason, and it's to bring us to where we're at now. So make peace with those things. Let go of anything that's stopping you from moving forward, because it's time for you to shine. Okay, you're not helping anybody or serving anybody by keeping yourself stuck. All right? So the next question that I asked was, what can we do right now to facilitate this process of stabilizing into these energies? And we got two cards that fell out. So we got the Gates of Heaven, which is one of the ones that we pulled last time, and we got Sound of the Fierce Flute. Okay, so the Gates of Heaven, again, that's talking about negative energies or negative influences on us. Now, those things may come from within, but with this card, it's more specifically talking about things outside of us. So that may be people, that may be entities, that may be just residue from trauma. Some energy is just energy that we've attributed a sensation to, a feeling to, and that can cling to our energy field. It can be, like I said, people. So karmic interactions that we have with people is karmic contracts that they're due for completion. Like it's time to move forward from those things, to let those things go. So it can be that process. It can also be us leaving parts of ourselves with other people in their energy field. And that's kind of where that guilt ties in too. Because sometimes the reason why we become fragmented is that we leave little parts of ourselves with other people when we feel guilty about something we did to that person. They have to carry part of us from that point forward. We leave a little bit of us with them. And so with this integration process, we've pulled everything back in, and now we really need to cut ties to anything, any negativity that's holding us back, anything that's keeping us stuck, anything that's still wrapped around us, keeping us from moving forward, keeping us from moving at all. So if you've still got karmic situations with people that you know, it really needs to stop. It's due for completion. You guys have learned everything you need to from each other. Now is really an optimal time to cut those ties so you can move forward. This is really an optimal time, an important time for us to let go of those old unforgivenesses within us, the guilt, the shame, all of that stuff. Just really cut ties to anything that is negative, that is keeping you stuck. It's not pulling you back anymore, but we can still keep ourselves stuck because we get afraid to move forward. So we're integrated. We have all of our power now, but it's whether or not we choose to move. So don't let yourself get stuck because of fear. Don't freeze up. And Sound the Fierce Flute, that's about using our discernment. And that is really important right now because we're experiencing things in entirely new ways, and we're trying to figure out what is negative that's keeping me stuck, and what is still contributing to my growth, and how am I interacting with my environment anymore? The messages with your team, that's part of that discernment too. Discernment is it's not about judgment. It's not about saying this is good and this is bad. It's about saying this is contributing to my growth, or this is no longer contributing to my growth. It's either serving your highest good or it's not. And so we use discernment to decipher between those things, but we also used discernment to decipher where the messages are that we're getting. So are they coming from ourselves now that we're more integrated? Are they coming from our teams? Are they coming from the people around us? Is it subliminal messaging or social programming? It's those sorts of things. So we really need to, and we have a greater capacity to discern between the things that are serving us and the things that aren't. So as we're cutting those ties to things that aren't serving us anymore, really use your discernment to figure out what those things are, what you keep, what you leave behind. I know it's a process we've been going through for, it seems like, forever, but it's a little bit different now, because now it's about what do I need to do to move forward, not so much what do I need to release so that I'm not getting dragged back. Okay. All right, next we're going to move into the Isis cards. So we've got Lady of the Stars. So this really links into the energy field expansion, because that's what this card is kind of about. It's about that our energy fields are expanding. We're housing more power, more ability. This is a crucial time in our spiritual evolution. It is a, like I said before, I know, repetitive, a serious and significant leveling up that we've just done. And what that's helping us to do is move further into unconditional love. And that will help us to forgive ourselves, to let go of all of those negative emotions that were keeping us from moving forward within ourselves. It's also allowing us to see things with more compassion, but compassion also, there's boundaries that fit in with that too. Compassion is not about being a doormat. Compassion is about being able to look at a situation and say, okay, I'm not judging. There's nothing horrible about this person or about this situation or whatever. This is not a good versus bad thing. Compassion is being able to look at everyone and everything, including ourselves, with love and with patience and forgiveness. It doesn't mean we become a doormat. It means we can see things through the eyes of unconditional love, and we can set those boundaries for ourselves so that we don't get held back, so that we won't be negatively influenced by the things around us, so that we don't keep ourselves stuck, so we don't become fragmented again. So the Lady of the Stars brings us into that unconditional love so that we can move forward. It's a sign that we have stepped up to the plate. We have moved significantly. It's been a big shift. Everything is new, okay? And it's also a card that amplifies any of the other cards that you pull alongside it from the deck. So it amplifies the energies of those things. So the next question that I asked was, what can we do to help facilitate the process? And got two cards that fell out again. So we got Divine Sisterhood. Okay, now this is not just for women, all right? This card is really about finding your tribe. Find people that do uplift you. Find the people that are in alignment with where you're going in your life right now. Let go of the people that aren't serving you anymore, that aren't helping you, and that you're not helping. Don't keep other people stuck either by clinging on to them. I know sometimes that can be really hard to let people go, especially when they've been a part of our lives for a long time, or if we feel responsible for them, or whatever the case may be. But it's time to stop. It's time to let go of those codependent paradigms. It's really time to move forward into healthier relationships, because we're moving forward into a healthier version of ourselves. So the Divine Sisterhood card is about finding your tribe. Find the people that are going to assist you in stabilizing these energies. People that are going through the same things, who you can bounce ideas off of, who you can talk to and be like, hey, is this happening to you? Oh, good, it is happening to you. Not that I want it to, but it at least makes me feel less crazy. Those sorts of things. That's why it's so important. Find your tribe. Don't isolate yourself. The journey can be hard enough as it is. Don't isolate yourself. And we are starting to move forward in our lives, especially if you feel driven, if you have a calling, if you have a mission. There's a degree of networking that goes into that. And speaking as maybe a former introvert, I don't know if I still am or not, but we're having to start networking. We're having to start branching out of what's comfortable for ourselves. So find your tribe and find the right one for you. Don't just get shoved into a box by somebody else. Figure out the sort of people you want to have around you and surround yourself with them. Interact with them. Play off of each other. Contribute to their growth as much as they're contributing to yours. It's that give and take. That's part of a tribe. It's part of the village, okay? And then the next thing is the Knot of Isis. And this card is really about stabilizing energy, especially feminine energies, because a lot of what we're kind of going through right now, especially with those emotions and like having to learn how to flow, a lot of those things are more feminine. But it's about stabilizing energy in general. So we're in this transition period now where we've integrated, but we're having to stabilize. And the Knot of Isis is like a tool that kind of houses our energy field so that we can do that sorting process, that we can kind of fall apart in small ways and have those days that are up and down and everything without actually backsliding. The Knot of Isis is a tool to keep us in a certain spot so that we can stabilize before moving forward. It's there specifically to help us with that transition that we're going through. And that plays in with the Divine Sisterhood card, because when you find the right tribe, they assist you with that too, because we're supporting each other. So they support your energy field, you're supporting theirs. You help to uplift each other. So that's part of that stabilization process. So we're being helped by the divine in that sense, but we're also being helped by our tribe, the actual people in our lives. All right. And then I asked what we need to be aware of. And again, we're getting crossovers between the Kuan Yin deck and the Isis deck, because the first card that I pull is the Brother in Darkness. And this, again, is about those negative energies. Now, this one is not so specifically external energies. This one could be either inner darkness, inner negativity, or coming from outside of us. So, again, it's the same theme. It's time for us to ditch the negativity, ditch the doubt, move past that. There is no more room to doubt. There's no more room to hate on ourselves. There's no time. There's no room. It's not serving a purpose, and we've leveled up. We need to be done with that. Okay, the training wheels came off. We can't just ignore these things forever. We can't expect somebody else to fix it for us. It's time to really step up and do the work in a different way. We did the internal work, we did the purging, we went through that dark night of the soul, we went through that process, and now the movement that we're doing, the work that we're doing, is letting our light shine out into the world, using our abilities, our powers, our skills, our gifts to make an impact of a positive nature on the world around us. We have to let go of that darkness. That can be dark entities, darkness within ourselves, darkness with other people around us, those karmic contracts that aren't doing us any good, isolating ourselves, not making contact with the people that are good for us. It's all of those things. So cut the negativity. You're done with it. You don't need it anymore. It's time to move forward. All right. And the High Priestess, which is about discernment. Things are starting to be revealed to us. So mysteries are being revealed to us. We're starting to get answers to things that we've never had answers to before. We're experiencing things in new ways. And we need to really be discerning about what is serving us and what's not serving us. And we need to be discerning about what we do with it, be discerning about where the messages are coming from that we get. It's really about just, again, stabilizing into those new energies and learning to roll with things in a different way. We are functioning differently than we used to. We're operating at a higher level of consciousness. So things are being revealed to you. We need to let go of that darkness that's holding us back from moving forward. It's really time to step into ourselves and to make our impact on the world and to make that positive impact on our lives, because we've done the work and we deserve it. Whether we feel like we do or not, we've done the work and we deserve to move forward. Everyone does, okay? Well, everybody that's been doing their work. If you haven't done the work yet, you have to do the work. Otherwise, you don't get to do this. It's like a process. You can't just jump from the beginning to the end without doing the stuff in the middle. All right. So I also pulled a few medicine cards to kind of ask, again, like, what can we do to facilitate the process? The first card that we got is Whale, and Whale actually kind of links into the Lady of the Stars a bit, because Whale is linked to the star Sirius, and so is the Lady of the Stars. So Whale is about essentially our records, our internal records. That could be our Akashic records from past lifetimes. It could also just be our memories from this lifetime, maybe things that we've pushed away and didn't want to deal with. But as we've leveled up, we are now getting more access to those memories because we have integrated all those fragments of ourselves back into ourselves. And so now we have access to those records. So those things help us to move forward because they help us to see where our power is, to remember our gifts, all of those things. And to see what our patterns are too, which is an invaluable tool, because if you know what your patterns are, you know whether they've been helping you or not, and what you need to do either to continue or enhance or change completely those patterns. So Whale is about being able to access those records and to learn from those records and to be aware of those things. It's also about a shift in our senses. There's a large component with sound there. So for a lot of us, we're getting increasing extrasensory abilities in general, but I've been noticing a lot more ringing in my ears than I normally get. And I've been noticing a lot of other people are getting that too. So Whale is linking into our records, and it's linking into our increasing extrasensory abilities. And that's something we're having to acclimate to as well, because we're not accustomed to that. We're not accustomed to that level of enhancement in our extrasensory abilities. So that's one thing that we can do, focus on that. And then also we have Possum. And Possum is about strategy. And to a degree, almost faking it till you make it. It sounds bad for this situation, but we are kind of strategizing because we are using that discernment, and we're figuring out what in our lives is still helping us and what's not, what we need to let go of, what's going to potentially cause us to fragment again, or what's just stopping us from moving forward, or what we're doing that's stopping other people from moving forward. So there is a degree of strategy there, because especially if we're dealing with karmic contracts with other people, some of those contracts are hard to extricate ourselves from. Even if they're due for completion, there can be a lot of residual gunk and just busy work that needs to be taken care of, the red tape, the paperwork, whatever you want to call it. So some of that stuff takes a bit of strategizing, a bit of planning out in advance. And Possum, like I was saying, a little bit of fake it till you make it, because sometimes we have to just dive in and convince ourselves that we're not scared, even if we kind of are, because this is something we have to do. Is something that we can't turn back. I mean, we could choose to stay stuck, but why would you want to do that? Like, why would you want to be stagnant if you don't have to be? You're having the opportunity to move forward. So let's do that. But stepping into that, the acclimating to all of this new energy, this new way of being, we're there now. We've worked so hard to get there. Now that we're there, sometimes we just kind of have to dive in and pretend not to be afraid, even if we kind of are, because we can't let our fears stop us. That's what it's more about. It's not about faking it in the sense that you're lying to yourself. It's more about, I can't let my fear stop me. So I'm just going to dive into this, and I'm not going to focus on the fear. I'm going to focus on where I'm going. So that's what Possum really is. Strategizing to get your life in the direction you want it to go, because now you can move forward. So figure out what that's going to take. Strategize that out, plan, and then really dive into this process of getting used to this new way of being. Just dive in. There's really no great way to do it, because everything has changed for us now. So we're kind of already in. We need to work with that and just accept that, flow with it. Be curious, be optimistic, be excited. Look at it as much as you can as being something really positive, because it is. Some of the emotions that we're feeling are still not really pleasant to feel, and to some degree even more unpleasant to feel than they used to be, and in some ways not, but it's an entirely new experience, and that's what can make it kind of scary. So you just have to dive into that uncertainty and keep working with it, and you will acclimate, you will adapt, and probably way faster than you think. And the final card that we got is Coyote. And Coyote is about the ways that we sabotage ourselves. So we're looking at those patterns. We're seeing our patterns more clearly. We're looking back over our past, looking back through our own story, and we're seeing what our patterns were. We're seeing the ways in which we sabotaged ourselves along the way, but not in a way that's judgmental. That's the thing with Coyote, is it's not about seeing our self-sabotaging patterns through the eyes of judgment and beating ourselves up for it. Because remember, we're trying to let go of that mentality. So what Coyote is learning to laugh at ourselves a little bit, seeing the ridiculousness of the way that we've been doing things, how it's not actually been helpful for us, or we've made things way harder than we had to. We've kind of, it's that foot and mouth or stubbing your toe on everything, the clumsiness, it's just the pettiness sometimes in arguments. Like, you look back sometimes and you're like, really, why did that bother me? That was just ridiculous. Why did I get so hung up on it? That's what Coyote is more about. It's about recognizing those areas where we're sabotaging ourselves, but doing it in a lighthearted way, not judging ourselves for it, but saying, okay, I've grown. This is part of my growing experience, and I can look at this part of myself, not hate it, but look at it and realize that, it's a dance. Life is a dance, and sometimes we are clumsy at dancing. I am not a graceful person. I have 2 left feet. I fall over for no reason. Sometimes I trip over flat ground. And in a lot of ways, I've done that in my life, not just in the physical world, but in my life. And we all have. And I don't see those parts of myself anymore as being horrible, or I very rarely get embarrassed by those things anymore. It's more, I can look back on it now and see how silly it was, see how petty it was, see how ridiculous it was, and realize that I'm growing and I'm moving forward, and that's awesome. And I'm still going to sabotage myself in some ways, because we are still human. Fully integrated or not, we are still human. We are still going to have those experiences that catch us off guard, that we don't respond very well to, those situations where we make fools of ourselves. Those things are still going to happen because we're human, but that's okay. It's part of our growing process. So Coyote is really about looking at how far you've come, recognizing your patterns, seeing them with compassion and with humor, and moving forward from there. So I hope that helped in some way, and maybe helped clear up some confusion for you if you've been experiencing some of these things. I know it's still roller coasters. It's always the roller coasters, right? It always seems like it's unsteady ground, but nothing ever stays the same. It's never going to be stagnant. This is good growth. This is moving forward. It's not digging deep and purging all of this crap anymore. I mean, that stuff will still come up from time to time, but we've done a lot of the work already. We've done a lot of the shadow work. We've really integrated ourselves. We are actually legitimately moving forward. For a long time, it's felt like we were stuck. This is a chance for us to move forward, really, really move forward in exciting new ways, and quite possibly move forward in ways that maybe we haven't been able to, not just in this lifetime, but for many lifetimes. This is a culmination point, and we leveled up. We did the work, we leveled up, and this is the opportunity that we're getting to make something different of our lives, to be more comfortable in our own skin, to grow in our power, to grow in our confidence and our joy and our love, all of those things. So this is a really good spot for us to be in. If you're still getting that up and down, don't stress about it. You're acclimating, and you're still human. You're going to experience some things, but it is getting better. You're getting stronger. You're getting more confident. You're really growing into yourself, and it's beautiful. See how beautiful it is. Let yourself glow. Let yourself shine your light out into the world, because the world needs it, especially right now. Always needs it. So focus on that. Focus on the positives of this. You are amazing, and you're a badass. You have done so much work, and you've reached this point where you can level up. It's a beautiful thing. Make the most of it. Enjoy this part of the process as much as you can. Learn to laugh at it. learn to laugh at your silly little mistakes and your self-sabotaging patterns. Make plans moving forward. Cut ties, really cut ties once and for all to those things that are keeping you stuck, because it is time for you to move forward. You are so much stronger and you've got so much going for you now. You've worked so hard to get here. You deserve to move forward. You hear me? You deserve to move forward because you've done the work. So let yourself. All right. All right, I'm out for tonight. I will talk to you next time. Have a beautiful day and beautiful week, and I will talk to you when I talk to you. Bye.